Alright, so like I said, this is my carving knife. This is a knife I carry every day. It's a very short blade, and now, why does that matter? Well, because this is going to be legal to carry in a lot more places than some of these other things. And now, why is that relevant? Because we're talking about home defense, and, you know, inside your home you can carry whatever the hell you want. Well, because in most places you can carry whatever you want inside your home, especially where I live in Georgia. But in this case, the reason that I think it's significant that it's legal to carry is because you're likely to have it on you that way. If you're just around the house in your day clothes, and it's legal to carry, so I carry this pretty much everywhere, well, this is pretty likely to be on me if I'm around the house in my day clothes and something starts to go down. And so that's one of the big things that this has that some of these other things don't, is I have to be able to get to some of these other things. Like that machete, I'm not going to be carrying a machete around my house with me. I have to go get that. Even this hatchet, I'm not going to be carrying a hatchet around the house. I have to go get that. This is not unreasonable. It also has, like I mentioned before, I explained before, a decent sheath with this leather. And all in all, I really like this knife. It's sturdy enough. I can get a really good tight grip on it because it has a very long handle, right? And that's a thing with carving knives, is they have very long handles and very short blades, and that allows you to get a very good grip and have very good control over what you're doing. That's positive. That's a positive thing. This knife, as far as self-defense application, is really, like I said, a space maker to allow me to get to something better, or I've already kind of fucked up and there's somebody on top of me, you know, like choking me out, and now I can go to something that will get them off of me. And that's really what this is for. It's kind of relevant to home defense because, like I said, I might have it on me, and it's just relevant to self-defense in general, and I think self-defense in general, when we're talking about that, home defense is part of that, and so I should address this. Now this next one. This is still actually in my plan, and the reason for that is this is the knife I carry when I do like yard work, or if I'm doing like construction work, which sometimes I do. This knife is going to be on me. I really like this knife. I really think that it is, for how cheap it was like 15, 20 bucks, and it is one of the sturdiest knives that I've ever held. This little piece right here could do some less lethal, but still pretty significant damage. All in all, I like this knife. It's really sturdy. I know that I can get a good grip on it. Issue. This is not the sheath it came with. I'm going to give that as a disclaimer, but this is still a nylon sheath, and the nylon sheath that it came in had the same issues that I'm going to talk about with this sheath. So, understand, this is a Colt knife. It says Camelus on the sheath, which are two different brands. But it's just because this sheath fit this knife, and I lost the old sheath, so I put it in here. Now, talking about the disadvantages, this clip, right? I've already talked about how Kydex is better because it retains your weapon better than nylon. However, if you've got this little clip on here, people would say, oh, well, it won't fall out with that clip. Okay, but it still goes most of the way out, which is still an issue. And this clip actually can be a serious issue. I've actually been in a self-defense encounter, and I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but what I will say is I was unable to access this knife because of this clip. I couldn't have gotten it out fast enough, and so that's not going to be every situation, but it is going to be some situations, and it's important to know that, and know that you're not always going to be able to get it out. Even just that little extra half a second of unclipping this clip can make the difference between being able to get it out and not. And now luckily I was able to make it out of that situation without the knife, and I am still here to talk to you guys, and so that's good. But it could have gone very differently, and it would have been in part because I wasn't able to get this out, and so that's an issue. But as far as when I'm doing like yard work and stuff, you know, this is more, again, more of a tool than it is a weapon, but still useful as a weapon if I had to use it that way. Hatchet. Now this is actually also my grandfather's, and I gotta get myself one of these. I really like this thing. It has a rubber grip, so it's really easy to hold on to. It does suffer from some of the same shortcomings as some of these other things in that it's short range and everything, but when I was doing those grapevine chopping, I used the machete and I used this, and this did not shift around in my hand at all. Even when I had gloves on or whatever else, my hands got sweaty, I could still chop with this, and so that means something. This sheath on it, I've talked already several times about Kydex. This is Kydex, that's what you want, right? It still can, you know, you can access that pretty quickly, especially if you practice it a few times. I've had to practice it a few times. That didn't come as quickly normally. When it's on your belt, it's not as quick to get out, but again, this isn't something you're going to be walking around the house with. This could be something that you have staged up somewhere. And again, this would really be more of a fight my way to something better kind of weapon. But as that, this is very useful. Alright, so for the astute people out there, you've noticed that I've been talking about wanting something that is ranged, so that in case it doesn't work the first time, I have something else I can go to, or I can try something else before they get to me. Well, the first thing that I'm going to talk about here is a less lethal weapon. Notice I've been starting with less lethal because that is what I would prefer to use. Pepper spray. This is great for self-defense. This is personally what I carry is the POM, P-O-M. I've seen it tested on several different people, and all of them very much out of commission. So that's what you want, right? You want something that's gonna immobilize your attacker without having to, you know, kill them, because that's what this is for. Also, you know, animals. So you got things like, you got an angry dog that's come onto your property. Well, you could hit it with a pepper spray, and that will work very effectively. Issues with the pepper spray are that if you use it indoors, you're gonna get some too. You're gonna get that cross-contamination. If you do it when there's a fan blowing back at you, you might even get some, like, really some in your face. That's a problem. This is also why I don't recommend the ones that fog. I like the ones with a direct stream, because those are going to be less affected by wind. And then people will say, oh, but the gel isn't affected by wind at all. But the problem with the gel is it needs to land on their eyes. It can't, like, land up here and then, like, sink, like roll down. Like, it'll take a long time to do that, as opposed to what I have, the spraying a direct stream. It'll land here and pretty quickly make its way down into the eye, and so you'll have effects within a second or two, and that's what I want. I want to see those. I want to see the effects of what I've done in a second or two, because that's the kind of time that self-defense stuff happens in. So it's good in that I've got about 10 feet, especially indoors. I've got right about 10 feet of effective range with it, so I could probably hit someone who's coming through the door that you guys can't see that's over there. But the problem with it is that it is going to be affected by wind, and it isn't necessarily going to stop everyone. There are about 10% of people that just aren't afflicted by pepper spray. Now, 90% is high percentage enough for me. That's excellent. 90% is really high percentage, but it's still something to keep in mind that about 10% of people are gonna make it past that. And now, last but not least, last but in fact probably my favorite option here, is going to be some kind of long gun. Now, in my particular case, what fits the bill is a Henry 22 lever action. I'm using this rifle to fill the spot of really just a long gun. Now, why am I using this rifle to fill that spot? Well, because it's the gun I have currently. But I think there's a lot that can be achieved with a long gun in terms of home defense. First off, it is long range, right? I can be at the top of the stairs and hit someone at the bottom of the stairs. That's good. I can be across the living room and still hit my target. That's good. We know from ballistics charts and testing on ballistics gel and also just real-world security camera footage that rifles are going to be more effective than the same round shot out of a pistol barrel. So 22 is still a pretty weak round, but this is going to give me a little bit more velocity than maybe some other guns would. This is a very light gun, and that's a positive thing because let's say I've got a home invasion scenario and I come downstairs and I show me your hands, and they show me their hands and they surrender. I might have to, under some circumstances, hold a home invader at gunpoint, because ideally, right, I would make them they would just run away. But maybe they don't. Maybe they stop and put their hands up. Well, now I have to hold that person there. So if I'm holding that person, you know, if I got a really heavy gun, this is going to get pretty tiring while I'm waiting for the police. And, you know, maybe you'll come to here, you know, but still, this could be really tiring. And now that's why I think you should have a sling on your gun. I don't, so I'm a hypocrite. But that's just honestly because this gun doesn't have any way to mount a sling. So that is going to be one of the downsides to this gun. One of the big good things is I have put a flashlight on mine. That is a necessity. So there's a light on here. It's long range. Not maybe as guns go, but as far as the weapons that I've been showing, it is. With a 22, you're barely going to have to deal with over-penetration at all, so that's good. Now, it may not penetrate enough, but I've also got 15 rounds in here, which in most home defense situations is less than you'll need. In most home defense situations is less than you'll need.
Hi guys, so it's 3 a.m. And I'm editing right now, and I realized I meant to say more than you'll need, and I said less than you'll need, and I did it every time, so I mean at least I'm consistent, but that is a mistake. I meant to say more than what you'll need in most circumstances.
Still not ideal, but it's you know, I'd rather have more, but in most situations it is less than what you'll need. I can also show you really quickly that this gun is unloaded. I should have done that at the beginning of all this.
I did actually also safety check it before I rolled the cameras, but I figured I should do a safety check on camera as well.
Here is the safety check. You can see. This would be ejecting rounds if there were any in the gun. Now I'm going to decock it very carefully. Okay. Good thing about 22 also, you're going to have quick follow-up shots due to there being pretty much no recoil at all. But the disadvantage of that is, you know, it's still not going to be as fast as some other guns because it's a lever action, not a semi-automatic, but it works, right? This fits the bill of a long gun. Even if it is a small long gun, it's probably going to be enough in most situations. Now, and you know, the other thing is, it may not seem like this gun would be particularly intimidating, especially when there are people out there who have ARs and shotguns and all kinds of things like that, but you get a bright light shining in your face and you see someone with a rifle, even if it's this rifle, still kinda scary. Still probably enough to make people run away. Now, people will say, oh, but this is a grappling liability when you get up close too. You know, fighting over a long gun, we see videos of that all the time, and it usually doesn't go very well for the person with the long gun. Now, I will say a few things to that. Usually, the person with the long gun in those videos is pretty obviously untrained, and I've practiced a fair amount at keeping a long gun out of someone's hands, because I knew that at some point that would be a skill that would come in handy, and now it is, now that I have this. And you know, you could say that, oh, well, you could use those skills with the baseball bat too. Yeah, but then it's just gonna get, if I manage to create space with that baseball bat, it's just gonna get me back to having the same problem again. Whereas this, if I muzzle strike and then use that to create space, now I can put a shot on there, and a shot is just going to be a more effective stop than a swing with a baseball bat. It just is, even a 22, at least in my opinion. Another good thing about a 22, I have hearing loss already, and if I set that off in a hallway, it's not going to make it that much worse. If I set off an AR-15 in a hallway, it's going to blow my eardrums out. Or a shotgun in a hallway, that's going to blow my eardrums out. Now, admittedly, those rounds will have more effective stops, and so you'll probably only have to set those off once, whereas with the 22 you might have to set it off a bunch of times. But it's still... it's better than not having a long gun, and it's still much quieter, so that is still a benefit. If I only have to fire 1 or 2 shots, that's a great thing.
One last note from editing, this time around 5 a.m. I was looking at it and I realized that I never went through and actually defined some of the terms I was talking about. Those terms, things like draw cut, over-penetration, right? These are things that to me are very common, and to other people in the self-defense world that's very common terms, but pardon me, I have the hiccups for whatever reason, but to us it's really normal stuff, but to maybe a new person to this world, you might not recognize those words. So over-penetration means shooting through your intended target and hitting something that you didn't intend to on the other side. So like an innocent person or something like that, or your neighbor's cat, whatever the case may be, right? Over-penetration is an issue of it going through too much. And 22 is weak enough that you really don't have to worry about that. So that's what I was talking about there. And the other thing that I was talking about, I said draw cuts. I think that's probably the only other thing that people might not know what it is. What that means is basically you just already have, let's say this pen is like a knife, and I have it here. You just already have it against the thing, and then you just slide. So it's just that. Instead of it being like a slash like this, that's a draw cut. And that could come in handy during grappling, is what I was saying. One other thing I should say is that if you guys want more information like this, I would say subscribe to my channel, because I am trying to become more consistent with uploads and start to really, make more and more videos about this stuff, about self-defense, because one day I wanna be a teacher of this stuff. I want to teach people how to defend themselves, but for right now, I'm just gonna talk about it on YouTube. And I should also say, though, that there are some really good other resources for self-defense. There's a guy named John Correa. He does a channel called Active Self-Protection and Active Self-Protection Extra. Those channels are gold. Icy Mike from Hard to Hurt. This is a channel on YouTube. He's another A1 self-defense YouTuber. John Lovell's pretty good. James Yeager has some good stuff and some not so good stuff. Paul Harrow has some good stuff and not such good stuff. Like, they all have the occasional up and down. I would say John Correa is probably my favorite, because he actually bases his things off of stuff that he observes watching real gunfights, and so I've witnessed a lot of stuff off of his channel, like watching that stuff, and I've learned a lot from it, and I think you guys could too. It has helped my understanding of tactics drastically. Speaking of tactics, the Warrior Poet Society, if you want to learn how to pie a corner correctly, how to clear a room without ever even going into it, obviously you can't fully clear it, but how to largely clear a room without ever even actually going into that room, John Lovell, the Warrior Poet Society, his YouTube channel, and now he has a streaming service if you're interested in that. Those are all really good resources as well. But yeah, subscribe too, because why not? I mean, I'm here. I'm going to keep making stuff. If you like my content, why not?